Hello, I am Dice, and I'm joined by Izala, and we are going to try and do a LP for you.
Yeah.
So we are going to tackle Final Fantasy 13, the original corridor simulator.
Is it the original one?
I, I mean, I think there's some differences. That it was definitely more pronounced in this one, and it seemed to be a highlight of most people's critique. Izala, do you want to talk about who you are and
Yeah, who I am? I don't know. I'm Hizala. I play primarily RPGs. I think it's probably the only genre of game I've played recently.
you've been spending a lot of time playing?
A lot of time playing Chrono Cross specifically. But I don't know what else there is about me. That's it. It's the only thing.
Yeah, and I just play video games, and I wanted to do something, so this is what we're doing. We both played this when it originally released in
Yeah,
'09.
Yeah.
I think it was '09, right? Yeah, you got it over some long holiday weekend. You brought it back to our dorm room, and I ended up playing through it in like 2 sittings.
Yep. Which was the same thing I did originally too, just a couple days before. I think
Yeah.
it was spring break or Easter or something.
Memorial Day stuck in my head or something, but
Yeah.
one of those. So this is the intro cutscene, your high quality video content.
I'm gonna be like reminding myself that this came out on the PS3 originally, and it like still looks
days after we awoke.
good.
Or the beginning.
Yeah, I mean the CG especially. So this is the PC version, originally released in 2014. Basically alongside all of the other parts of the Final Fantasy 13 Lightning Saga. But there were some issues apparently at initial release. Most of them patched out, but I also have there's 2 PC community mods I have installed, and I'll probably link them in some capacity. One to allow for different frame rates, unlock frame rate, unlock resolution,
Be quiet.
and the other one fixed some minor patch issues because Square has a tendency to not release additional patches after putting their games out on PC.
Yeah, unfortunately.
She did it!
It's surprising they can do that when they have an MMO. That's
Yeah, well, it lives and dies on patches.
yeah.
You alright? I'm out of the sea.
There's going to be a lot of terminology in this game. So both of us have played this, as we discussed earlier. My general attempt on this playthrough is going to not have any spoilers. We'll try our best. We may allude to things in the future a little bit too well. But also terminology. So there's a major complaint when this game came out was that it dumped a lot of different words for things that you had no idea what they even could possibly mean, and they just keep using them without giving you a definition.
And they already did it. They already threw out Lassie.
Yeah. And we'll get a couple other ones in this segment. But I'm going to try and not define them for you until the characters give a little bit more understanding of what they are.
I also think this game might have the fastest, new game to chocobo time. Because you already saw one on screen.
Yeah. But we never actually get to ride that chocobo, right? Not that one, obviously.
Not that one, no.
That's way too small. But do we have... Yeah, again, spoilers. It's been long enough for me, so I think I had tried to start playing 13 again, and I got maybe 4 hours into it a couple of years ago.
All Final Fantasies have to start with a scorpion tail boss. It's actually required.
So now we're getting to in-game rendering, which honestly, yeah, they still look fine. That the hands can look a little blocky.
Gotta compromise something.
Yeah. So, I'm actually a big fan of the combat system in this series. The first game doesn't let you explore it for a very long time.
Which is a shame. Yeah, it gets a lot of criticism, but I think we're both pretty big fans of it.
Yeah. So I'm gonna skip most of the tutorials, unless I find that we end up needing the game to tell us some of the stuff. But basically what that tutorial is describing is that when your action bar fills up, each segment is an amount of attack that you can do. We will open the abilities window in a little bit, and you'll see that there's a reason why I'm selecting auto battle here. It generally tries to exploit weaknesses that you know, and do as much basic damage as possible using the auto battle. It's not always optimal, especially when you need to find out that information on certain enemies, but you can get by with auto battle for a disturbing amount of the game, even when you get into the combat system, because it will help you in the future. When the combat system expands, the auto battle is almost a necessity to utilize correctly because of how quickly you need to input stuff sometimes. It's still a cute chocobo.
Heads up.
It's one of the best.
This thing won't give up.
Soundtrack to this game is also very good.
Yeah, I like that there's a consistent motif throughout most of the songs. Whenever a later water area soundtrack comes on my Spotify playlist, it's always just brings back memories.
For sure. Of course, Final Fantasy always has good soundtracks, but this is one of the top ones. The whole trilogy, really.
And the aesthetic of this game being sci-fi future is something that I enjoy a lot.
You might remember when like the skybox background here was my wallpaper for a while.
I owe ya.
So occasionally in this I'm doing things like that. So there is a way of skipping attacks. You don't have to wait for your entire ATB bar to fill up entirely to do an attack if there's an ability that has enough ATB available to execute. It's primarily useful for quickly killing off an enemy. There is a ranking system as it's shown up now twice, I think. Did it show in the transition? No, I don't think so. So that's the first time. And we'll get into that in a little bit. But yeah, being able to execute a command is helpful both for finishing off the enemy early, but there is a technique for maintaining stagger. So there was a bar in the top right next to the enemy, and effectively you were trying to fill that up. Once it hits its limit, it will then stagger the enemy and they take additional damage. Sometimes maintaining that bar is hard, depending on what you're attacking with can affect how quickly it drains and how quickly it goes up. And if you're about to lose your bar entirely, getting an attack out to refresh it is very helpful.
I'm getting too old for this.
You know how cameras work, right?
Every game is somebody's first game.
It's true.
And this is basically just telling us that as we fight new things or encounter new areas, we'll be able to get additional details. And some of the stuff I alluded to earlier about not being explained well is just in the data log.
Yeah, the data log, they ended up putting kind of a lot of the world building elements are only explored in the data log, unfortunately, because it's actually really interesting.
And I don't think this game does it. Possibly the sequel does. This is our first controllable encounter. I believe I go into the abilities menu here. Next fight. But yeah, the data log, it's doesn't really tell you that it's updating a lot of times either. Like, there's an indication on the screen that says it was updated. But I find games that
What do you suppose this is?
things like audiobooks or something that do the world building where you find them in game, I'm more likely to engage at those, whereas if this just being buried in a menu, I don't know how often I actually open the data log while playing through.
Yeah. It is interesting to note that, like, I mean, it's probably already obvious, but the encounters aren't necessarily random. You have to run into the enemy, which is nice. I'm not a fan of random encounters, but they're not necessarily easy to avoid. It's just that you know when they're coming.
Yeah, I didn't get it in this recording, but an earlier test run, I managed to get a preemptive attack. Which you're not. There are some that are scripted or like easy to get. Others are just have right time, right place. So I'm using Blitz here. I use it under my own selection the first time, under the abilities menu, and then select the correct enemy so that the spin actually hits everybody. Sometimes the auto battle will think that they're close enough together to blitz, but by the time you go to attack, the enemy has repositioned and you end up hitting one person. And that's a huge ATB drain to try and make back. And the scoring system in this game is effectively entirely based on your speed of killing the encounter. It gives you a par time, and if you match the par time, you get 3 stars. The stars are useful because they increase your drop rate and possibly increase the rarity of drops too.
Are you penalized for using items? I think that was like one of the early theories, but I don't remember if anybody ever figured it out.
I can't remember. I know it's points per second, and it's basically points based on some metrics, amount of damage you do, possibly overkill benefiting. But at this point, I don't know. I am planning on, when there's a better use of the combat system, diving back into that a little more. So we're fighting a robo-wolf at this point.
Yeah.
I think that's the first time we've staggered an enemy. So that's what I was talking about. That bar will fill up based on the target that you currently have, and when it maxes out, they get, I think it's 100% increase damage initially.
You get, yeah. It can vary because I think some of the enemies it's lower.
Yeah. Different enemies have different thresholds also. It's basically almost a form of defense that affects it.
It's certainly one of the elements that helps flesh out the combat system, but yeah, it doesn't really come into play until later. You gotta save every time.
Every time. Most of your backtracking, maybe I'll try and figure out a quick way of splicing this in the future. So this is actually the encounter on the previous run that I managed to get a preemptive. The flying guy was turned around, and I jumped down behind the enforcer here. And that was the situation where Auto Battle thought that I could blitz both of them, and it just whiffs the second enemy. And I tried doing a short attack there. There are certain abilities that can be interrupted by hitting people. So you can quick attack to mitigate damage a little bit. We're in the menu for the first time. We're actually take a look at... We're going to equip that bangle. Just get some extra HP, no reason not to. And check this. Check what other items we happen to start with, which is nothing. We were some kind of fugitive on a train. Surprising that let us keep our gun and our gun sword.
They were really flexing with the animated backgrounds in
yeah.
the menu when this came out.
Yeah, we just saw all of the abilities we currently have at our disposal, which is attack and a single AoE on one of the characters we can play as. Yeah, at this point we have basically no idea who these people are, why they were on a train, why they destroyed a train. They used a weird name that's apparently supposed to be indicative of why this is happening.
I was just going to ask if they actually said the characters' names, but I guess it says Lightning and Saz there at the bottom, so... We do know.
Yeah, and there's an option in the menu that I had turned on a previous run, but apparently the PC version, every time you relaunch it, if you start a new game, it does not save your settings. So I will be turning on dialogue names for future episodes. Now this scene just seemed awkward to me.
So much for the element of surprise.
She yells preemptive strike. And then is surprised that it's no longer preemptive. And it wasn't a very powerful run to try and to engage these.
It's almost like they were going to put the tutorial there for it, and then later changed it.
I like the quip from Saz, though. He's just like...
Yeah.
Do we turn back?
There's no time.
Then what do you suggest we do?
Quiet.
Hey! Wait! No, don't leave
Oh,
me!
yeah.
Let go.
No, hell no!
She's just like, bye. And he's like, what? Wait. He's got apparently a bear grip. He destroyed her waistband with just a giant bear hug.
Yeah, apparently. I don't even really know if they ever explain what she was going to do.
So, in your inventory, you do have, it's a key item for the grab something device. I don't remember it ever being utilized. Like, you see her use it twice in the opening cinematic. She tries to use it there.
Yeah, I think it's only cutscenes, too. It's nothing under your control.
Yeah. And then this shows how, so you don't have any direct control of where your party members stand, but there is benefit to getting them into positions differently. So because they are going back to each other. All the enemies are grouped up, making it really nice for this single area attack ability we have at this point. But Lightning, just because she went to physically attack the guy on the other side, she split from Saps. There are instances where, so if the enemy was doing an AoE, having them split up means that we are also not getting hit everywhere. They mitigate that by having some arena-wide AoEs, but you can try to manipulate damage taken in other forms too.
Seems to be in working order.
You gotta check every corner, make sure that there's no floating boxes that...
You don't know where you're gonna find the extra potion.
Yeah. I need that 50 gil.
Or upgrade materials.
This is not our lucky day. He's a soldier too, right? Can't you like pull some strings or something?
Deportees, are we? Weapons down. I'd hate for this to turn ugly.
Turn ugly?
He wants to kill us without a fight.
Time's up!
This enemy's design just stood out a lot more. Like, it doesn't seem to fit with the rest of the SciComm soldiers that we've seen at this point. He has a high collar. He's very...
It's different.
yeah.
I
Like, it doesn't
don't...
look like a logical upgrade to everyone else. Like, him being a larger enemy is fine. I'm fine with that, but it doesn't... It's not consistent across. And him just being called SciComm Marauder means that it's a general enemy later on, right?
Right. I don't know if... Do we see the same design later on, though?
I mean, I don't know. Yeah.
It's just like a standard mini-boss.
And the tutorial that popped up at the beginning of this fight was the ability to potentially interrupt that guy's cast.
So, soldier. What's your angle? What? Classified military info? What's the matter? You quit, didn't you? Did you think I'm gonna go out there and just tell everybody your secrets?
See.
Big reveal.
My
Yeah.
angle. I'm after the Fal'Cie.
So we can assume that Lussie and Fal'Cie are related, and
Still happy you tagged along.
Fal'Cie is a thing that can be killed? Or at least attacked, I guess?
Yeah, I mean, certainly from his reaction, they're very important. And that's kind of all they explain. Well, not even explain, they hint at it at this point.
Yeah.
On behalf of the good citizens, I would like to thank our brave false pioneers and express our best wishes for a successful relocation. Your noble and selfless sacrifice ensures the continued safety and peace of our society. Were it not for this remarkable gesture, every resident of Cocoon, your family, your friends,
Can we name who are
would be
important characters in this cutscene?
As in, do we remember the names? Or...
Oh, no.
Oh.
Identify who has unique character designs, I guess.
Oh, yeah, I see what you mean.
Huge. You stay here.
So sorry. I didn't mean to.
These people need heroes.
can almost tell from the number of polygons.
You keep your cool, and they will too.
Weird how everyone else has the same outfit. You're right.
For some reason,
The army's no match
the
for
general
Nora.
populace in the background, their attire reminds me a lot of like the Islanders in Final Fantasy X.
Yeah, it does. That's
The bathing
that's what I
suit
thought you were
type
gonna
thing.
say. Yep.
Yeah. But we're going to end at the Resistance front for this episode. Next time we'll be playing as this new character. We'll tackle it from there. But yes, that was the first episode of Final Fantasy XIII Let's Play. Again, I'm Dice, and with me is...
That's Izala, and see you next time.
Have a good one.